And then after this, later on, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ نَسُوا اللَّهَ فَأَنْسَاهُمْ أَنفُسَهُم. Do not be like those who forgot Allah, so He made them forget their own selves. Have you guys ever been through a stage in your life or known someone who's completely sort of like an identity crisis? You know when someone, you just don't know who you are, you don't know where you fit. Sometimes, your parents are from one culture, they have certain beliefs, you are from a different culture, you live in a different culture, and you don't really know where you are. This concept of not really understanding who we are will happen as a consequence of forgetting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah says that those who forget Him, Allah says, actually warns us, do not be like those who have forgotten Him, so He made them forget their own selves. Turning away from the remembrance of Allah has some very, very scary consequences. One of them is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the one who turns away from the remembrance of Allah, for him there is a shaitan appointed to that person. And that shaitan becomes chained to that person, and he becomes his most intimate companion. Now, I don't know if you guys realize, this is, to me, extremely scary. The concept of having a shaitan be your most closest and most intimate companion. This is the result of moving away or turning away from the remembrance of Allah. When you're not praying, when you're missing prayers, when you forget about Allah, now your best friend isn't, the person sitting next to you in the seat right now. Your best friend is actually a shaitan. And it's a shaitan who has been appointed specifically to you and has been chained specifically to you. How do you think that you're ever going to even be able to see things as they really are if you have a shaitan whispering to you all the time? And you become more and more susceptible to this whispering the more you move away from the remembrance of Allah. The first and foremost, really the first level of this is the prayer, is the salah. On time, 5 times at the very least. When you miss that, when you neglect that, you have opened yourself up for shaitan to be your closest advisor. Allah also says, وَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِي فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكًا وَنَحْشُرُهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ أَعْمَى. The one who turns away from my remembrance will have a miserable, narrow life. مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكًا. It's a miserable, narrow life. No matter what you may think, it seems, sometimes you look at people who have maybe a lot of money or who are very famous, or they seem to be, in some people's eyes, living the life, right? All their life is pleasure and happiness. That is a complete illusion, because the truth is when you are away from the remembrance of Allah, when you are far away from Allah, that's actually the most miserable state to be in. The heart was created to be close to Allah. When you take the heart away from that, you're moving it away, you're contorting it to something that a situation it was never intended to be in. The heart breaks, the heart hardens, and the heart dies when it's far away from Allah. That's a miserable life, the life that's far away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His remembrance. And rather the fruits of His remembrance, Allah says, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبُ. That indeed in the remembrance of Allah do the hearts find peace and satisfaction. And truly that's the only true peace and satisfaction, is in the remembrance and nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.